Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Welcome to another episode of A Morning Tea, where we sit in our sleepwear and discuss current events. Today's tea is iced jasmine cream tea by the Mountain Witch Tea Company. Sorry about the lighting. It's overcast outside. Now overcast days never turn me on, but something about the clouds and her mix. Actually, this is the first morning tea of the new year. Happy 2016, you guys.
Melanated!
So we've got a lot to talk about, and a lot of it's gonna get a little deep. Maybe not. I'll try not to. I don't want to get too deep. I just kind of want to give you the facts and keep it moving. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is what's happening in Burns, Oregon. So a group of patriotic Americans decided that they were going to take over the National Wildlife Park in Burns, Oregon, the National Wildlife Refuge. You know, these people and their names, because these ranchers, a father and son duo rancher named the Hammond family, they set fire to 130 acres in 2001 of federal land, claiming that they did it in order to stop brush fires. The government is saying that they burned it down because they were illegally poaching and deer hunting on federal land, and they burned it to cover up their tracks. Now, other ranchers from Nevada, some dude named Bundy and his homies, they decided they were going to come over to that area and take over because they feel like the government is doing too much. And until these guys who have been serving time in prison get released, that they're not going to leave, and that they are helping their fellow Americans out because the federal government has too much power, and how dare they tell Americans what they can do on their land. Now, the kicker is that the Native Americans who own this land, or who their ancestry is of this land, I'm not even going to try to say their name, it's P-A-U-I-T-E-S, they have been in contact or in conversation or mini battle with the U.S. government about this land, which is their ancestral homeland that they were kicked off of after signing a treaty with the United States, saying that they would keep their lands. They signed the treaty and then were moved under heavy arms out of the area, and now they have been fighting with the government to try to get this land back, but they have come to some sort of agreement where the government would preserve any native things or areas or sacred sites that is in and around this wildlife refuge. The issue is that Native Americans are feeling like, look, we have been in an argument with the U.S. government about our land, that now these patriotic militants have decided to come over and fight for the rights of the Hammond family. But if we were the ones that had gotten tractors and blocked the doors and locked ourselves inside of this federal building, they wouldn't be trying to peacefully deal with us. They would just kill us like they're used to doing. I'd have to say that I kind of agree. Like, I agree with the way that the police officers are handling it now. I don't think they should go in guns blazing, because that's not going to solve nothing, because people inside are armed, and it's just going to cause like problems. So now they're just waiting it out, trying to talk to them, get them to understand that, you know, by taking over this federal building, that the Hammonds aren't going to be freed, and that that's not the way to go about it. There's due process, there's laws, and that doing this way is not the way to do it. But the Native Americans are like, look, if that were us who were in there doing that, y'all would be out here in rare form acting a fool, like trying to kill us. And I think it's valid. I think the Native Americans have a valid point. You know, they have a very torrid history when it comes to white people in this country. And don't worry about the Hammonds. Let them serve their time for burning down 130 acres of land. 130 acres is a lot of land, you guys. It's no joke. Like, you burn down a lot of land. Like, no, you should go to jail. I don't care. So the next thing that's happening, and this is in the Middle East again, so you guys prepare. I'm going to throw out a lot of words at you, and I'm trying to define them. I'm trying to get you guys to understand what's going on in the Middle East. Okay, so you have Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi Arabia is run by a royal family. Then you also have Iran. Okay. So, Saudi Arabia and the kingdom and the royal family, they are Sunni Muslim, right? They are the Sunnis. Iran is Shia Muslims. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you some numbers. About, I think, 80%, maybe a little less, of the Muslim community of the world is Sunni Muslim. Okay, and about 15% is Shiite Muslim. They're both Muslim. Where their issue lies is back when Muhammad died, the Sunnis believe that it should have been his father-in-law, and I think that's indeed who ended up taking over for Muhammad, his father-in-law. The Shiites believe that it should have been his son-in-law slash cousin. Iran is a Shiite nation, right? And Iran is a country, so the majority of their Muslims there are Shiite or Shia. There is friction between the two groups, obviously, right? And so because the royal family, the kingdom is Sunni, the Shiites feel that there is a lot of discrimination put on them from this Sunni government. And they had a Shiite clergy, and I'm not going to say his name right, it's Nimr, N-I-M-R. He was killed on Saturday along with 47 other people, or 46 other people. On Saturday, he was beheaded in Saudi Arabia, which is like a mass execution that they had on Saturday. And the Iranian Shiite government is like, you know, you killed this man for no reason. You killed him because he's a Shiite. It feels like the evidence against him was just very thin. Basically, his crime was speaking against the royal family and causing dissent in Saudi Arabia, like being a troublemaker in Saudi Arabia. There's been a lot of like tension, and in Iran, the Saudi Arabian embassy was bombed, and some papers were ruffled and whatnot. No one was in the building, so nobody was hurt, but there's like a lot of tension that's happening, and there's already a lot of tension happening because one side is saying you're with ISIS, the other side is saying you're supporting ISIS. You know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of like anger, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of tension between these two groups of people and these two countries. The United States is like, hey, you know, you need to be careful who you kill as well, right? The United States is kind of like, we don't know what to do, because I do believe the United States is an ally with Saudi Arabia, but that mass execution is kind of like, wow, why did you do that? Since that clergyman was killed, there might be some action, some repercussions, you know. Iran is saying to Saudi Arabia, you are bullies and blah, 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 and Saudi Arabia is like, watch your fucking mouth. So it's like a lot is going on. Something else that's amazing that's happening is there is a physicist named Hadiyah-Nicole Green. I had to look over to see if I say her name right. She just was awarded a grant of $1.1 million to cancer research. She has a background in optics and lasers, and so she's going to be trying to figure out a cure, or to advance the cure for cancer using these technologies. So that is actually really, really great. I believe she is working at Tuskegee University. So congratulations to Hadiyah Green. That's a really positive thing. She is a positive Black woman making strides for Black people and, you know, whatnot. So yay, great name to know. Something that's a little bit of a small victory as well is that Sandra Bland's, the arresting officer, he is being indicted for perjury because he says that he had to pull her from the car or use force to get her from the car. And the grand jury does not believe that. So he's going to have to, if he is found guilty of perjury, he will have to pay a $4,000 fine and spend up to a year in jail, which doesn't seem like a lot, and it seems like there needs to be more, but it's a very small, tiny victory that something is happening to someone in Waller County over there in Texas for doing something wrong, in reference to Sandra Bland's death. As you guys know, which is the tear seen across the world, is Obama got tearful and shed some tears when he was signing some bill to be brought to Congress, or trying to go around Congress about the mass shootings that have happened in this country so we can get some more gun control. As far as the gun control issue, I'm not a gun owner, so I actually don't care, right? So I don't really have a dog in this fight. I don't know if any of you guys are gun owners. I don't know what the big deal about owning guns is. I think it's necessary if you were in places where there's a lot of wildlife, or you are out in the woods by yourself. For instance, if you're in Vermont and you live like your, closest neighbor is a mile away and you need to defend yourself from like animals or crazy people, like guns are a necessity. Now, if you live, in Harlem, maybe not. That's just my personal belief. I don't believe that guns save anyone from being attacked by anyone unless there's a direct attack. If there had been more people who knew how to use guns in say for instance, a Colorado shooting in that movie theater, that man wouldn't have been able to do it. And the truth is that no, like, people are specifically trained to be able to use guns under attack, right? So law enforcement and like military, those are the people who like know how to use a gun when they're under attack. The regular Joe who owns a gun and took some lessons at one time and maybe shoot some beer cans, like might not be an expert marksman and might not be useful in situations where they need to take somebody down when there's an imminent threat onto them. Like, you know, the blood gets pumping, like you make mistakes. And so not everybody needs to be running around with guns. Now, there is evidence to prove that places that do have open carrying gun laws, that there is less crime there. And I think that has something to be said. But like, are those areas more densely populated? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if everyone carried a gun in New York City, I don't think there'd be less muggings. I think there would be more deaths. I think that people will be killing each other more. There's a lot of people are trying to move around. I'm going to tell you right now, if I owned a gun, when I lived in New York City, there would have definitely been a couple times I would have pulled that gun out on someone. Now, if you're in like, you know, some town in Oklahoma, crime happens and maybe, yes, your gun will stop that crime from happening. I think that is when that might work, but it's not going to work everywhere and it's not going to work for all people. And a lot of people who have their guns feel like their freedoms are being encroached on. And personally, as a descendant of American slavery, I find the word freedom to mean something different to me than it does to most people who aren't the descendants of American slavery. Now, so some of your rights to be encroached on, that's not freedom. Okay? Like, there's a difference between having rights and there's a difference between having your freedom. And I get annoyed when people mix those two about their freedoms because they don't fucking know what it's like to not have freedom. You know, like, yes, maybe your rights will be encroached on. Perhaps you can't just do whatever the fuck you want to do. But there are those of us who have not, for generations, been able to just do what the fuck we want to do. So it doesn't feel the same. And I wouldn't use the word freedom. As a Black American person, my rights have been encroached on for generations. And my rights as a person now get encroached on because of who I am and my race. So I hate the word. And I went off on a tangent, but I just needed to say it because it bothers me when people use the word freedom when they mean rights. Now, that being said, I don't know about guns. I want to learn how to shoot a gun, you know, just because I want to have that skill, you know. What if there's a zombie apocalypse? You know, but I do think we should have stricter laws. Like, I think it should be, because all the people that are involved in these mass shootings aren't necessarily getting their guns illegally. You know, card-carrying members of the NRA, and they're doing something. So there needs to be more stringent laws upon who can get a gun, when, and what for what purpose. I do agree with that. You know, especially the stress of killing somebody. Do you really want to kill somebody? Okay, that's it for Morning Tea. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Leave them below. If you have anything that you want me to talk about next week or thought I should have talked about this week, go on ahead and let me know. I'm interested. I want to have a conversation. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Bye.